Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe now and turn on your notifications. That way you don't miss out on an upcoming video. Please leave a like on the video because it helps the video perform much better, helps the channel grow. Thank you. Trust me, you don't want to miss out. Email your true scary stories to thesinfulsavant@gmail.com to have your story featured on an upcoming video. I need your stories to provide fresh, never-before-heard content. Comment ideas for the channel in the comment section on this video, and please share. Sit back, relax, stay sinful. Story number 1. The rain falls furiously on the roof. The sound is so powerful as the water bounces off the rusted tin roof of the cabin. My sister and I have been locked inside this cabin in the middle of nowhere. I have no idea how long we have been here. The room we are in is so dark, and the masked man feeds us old soup and water 1 time per day. The door lets a small amount of light into this filthy shack. All we have is each other in this situation. I am 12 years old and my sister is only 7, so I have to be so brave for her. I can't let her feel the same fear I'm feeling every moment of the day and night. Sometimes I feel hopeless. I don't care if I live or die. My sister cries all the time, and no matter what I do to comfort her, she won't stop. The rats squeal and whine at all hours, and I've gotten used to them crawling across my face when I finally fall asleep. It's strange in a way. I almost find comfort in the furry little bastards. At least these creatures are not intentionally keeping my sister and I in a box while we slowly starve to death. The man who feeds us never speaks, and I think it is so we cannot identify him in any way, shape, or form. I pass out and wake up to a loud crash sound as a door is smashed in. There is so much yelling and screaming and chaos. My sister and I are swiftly pulled out of this cradle of filth in an instant. The policemen and federal agents put us into their SUV and told us everything was going to be okay. My sister clung to my side the entire time and would not let go at any time. This event was so traumatic that the details of that day are so foggy and blurred. I still can't sleep in a dark room at night and don't trust anyone. My sister is doing better than I am, which is amazing news. I guess my final message in sharing my story with you is this. Don't ever give up in any situation, because there are good people out there that care and will help you. Story number 2. A man in a white van pulled up next to me today while I was at work on my break. The van had very dark tinted windows. No markings of any kind. I was sitting on the curb about 6 feet away, hitting my vape. He called out to me, and thinking he was going to ask me about our shop, as I was in uniform and people frequently asked me whether or not we're open, so I smiled a polite customer service smile. He then said, "I think you're beautiful," and asked me to come and model for him. Creepy, but I kind of get it. I'm a young woman who has sort of an uncommon look, and I've had strangers approach me in the past to compliment me on the aspects of it, as odd as that may sound. I said no thank you to his offer, obviously. Rodney Alcala, anyone? He just kept saying he was a photographer over and over again, and that he really wanted to take my picture, and could he give me his card, and could I come up to him and take it? This is where alarm bells started really going off in my head, and my stomach dropped. I realized suddenly that there was no way he could have noticed me sitting in the area I was, unless this man had been watching me from a distance and had seen me walk out alone before he approached me in his car. I also realized that I was around the side of our building with no cameras, where security could definitely not see me. Realized that our shop was next to a major highway, and that someone could be inside that back door that I couldn't see. I froze a little. Kept saying, "No, I'm good. No, thank you," The man continued saying I should really come up to him and take his card. At least come and do that if I wouldn't model for him. Even after I said no thank you several times at that point, this man kept his eyes locked on me in an incredibly unsettling way. I felt like a prey animal, flat stare, no breaking his gaze at any point. After a tense minute of me trying to avoid his eye contact by looking at my phone, while he continued to stare intently, he finally drove away and left me alone. I quickly walked inside our store, and from inside I watched him circle the parking lot several times before leaving. Something was absolutely off with that whole situation, and I absolutely cannot shake the feeling something bad would have happened if I walked up to his car. He was so insistent that I come up to his door. Story number 3. I've always been good friends with one of my cousins, Cole, who's the same age as I am. The two of us were not quite inseparable, but we always did get along very, very well, and were often found together, both in school, as we'd always wind up in the same class together throughout elementary school and outside of it. When we were 12 and in the 6th grade, I was hanging out with Cole on a Friday afternoon around the later part of May, and we were psyched at the start of the weekend. We wound up at his house since he didn't live too far from me, and at one point my mom called to say that our grandpa was in the hospital. While the issue with our grandpa wasn't expected to be life-threatening, he was being kept at the hospital overnight for observation, and both my parents and Cole's were planning on staying with him and Grandma at the hospital. I was told that I was given the okay to stay at Cole's house for the night, with Cole's 15-year-old brother Hunter being in charge, while our parents were out. This was fine by us. I got along well with Hunter, and he was never bossy older brother that some of my other friends said they had to put up with. We ordered out for pizza and enjoyed goofing off as boys that age tend to do. At around 9 or so, there was a knock at the front door, and Cole went to answer it. I was a bit curious as to who it could be at that time of night, so I watched from a ways back. At the door were 2 older guys. They said that they were with the city and that they were investigating reports about the water pressure supposedly being bad in the neighborhood. They asked Cole if his parents were home, and when Cole said they were unavailable at the moment, which we were told to say to strangers if parents weren't home, the guys started asking a bunch of questions about how the water pressure was in the house, and if they could come inside to check. Hunter came over at that point and politely told the guys that the water pressure was fine, and perhaps they should move on to check on other homes in the area. The guys seemed reluctant to leave, but turned and walked away after Hunter started closing the door. After the door was shut, we looked at each other and shrugged, but didn't think too much of it after that and went back to goofing off. Eventually, we decided to go to bed. Cole and Hunter shared a bedroom, and we all agreed that I'd sleep in there with them, rather than me hitting the sack on the couch or something like that. When we got into their bedroom, they stripped down to their briefs, and I remembered Cole had mentioned to me once a while back that they had started just sleeping in their underwear. Since I hadn't originally planned on staying that night, I hadn't brought anything with me from home as far as overnight stuff, but since I wasn't in the mood to sleep in my clothes, I stripped down to my briefs as well, though I felt a bit embarrassed. They climbed into their beds and I quickly crawled into the sleeping bag, and after talking for a while about random stuff, we eventually fell asleep. Early the next morning, I got up because I had to pee, so I quietly go out of the sleeping bag and went and did my business in the bathroom. On the way back to the bedroom, I heard something in the family room, which was on the opposite end of the house from the bedrooms and the particular bathroom I was using. I didn't pay too much attention to it at the time, thinking it must be either Cole or Hunter, until I got back into the bedroom and realized that both of them were still in there. Trying not to panic, I woke them and told them that I thought someone was in the house. They quietly followed me, and the moment we walked into the family room, we saw the 2 guys from the night before in there, and it was rather clear they were robbing the place. One of them started moving towards us as he pulled out a wicked-looking knife. The 3 of us promptly raced to the front door, somehow managed to get it unlocked and open, and we fled outside. As luck would have it, a cop was driving by at that particular moment. We quickly flagged him down and told him about the two guys in the house. The cop called for backup, and within a couple of minutes several other cops were there, and they proceeded to enter the house, and after some searching they caught the two guys. The cops figured out that the two guys must have entered from a window in the laundry room that had a broken latch, and figured that if we discovered them, we could be more easily dealt with than adults. To add insult to injury, while we were waiting outside while the cops searched the house, both to get the two guys and make sure that there was no one else with them, some of the neighbors came out to see what the commotion was about, and this included some kids who went to the same school as Cole and myself. It was during that time that the three of us realized that we never had the chance to get dressed, so just like in the stereotypical nightmare, we had to stand outside in full view of everyone in just our briefs. Story number 4. It was my first time staying home alone while my whole family was out at my brother's ball game. I was 13 years old when this event took place. Anyways, I'm on the phone with a friend of mine feeling so grown up when somebody beeps in on the other line. I'll tell her I'll be right back and click over lines. Then the creepiest voice I've ever heard says, "Hello, little girl. I'm the man in the basement." Honestly, I laughed it off and just hung up thinking it was a prank call. I was a pretty confident little thing, and my neighborhood was pretty safe, so I figured someone was just messing with me, knowing it was my first time alone. They beeped in again, so I clicked over and heard, "Don't you hang up on me." And the lights started flickering and there was banging under my feet. I know it sounds crazy, but my dog started freaking out and my cat ran away. So I assure you I wasn't imagining this. Our basement was actually just an area connected to the garage. It wasn't finished. I heard what sounded like footsteps coming up the garage steps to get into our kitchen, and I threw stuff in front of the door and heard yelling and whatnot. I kept trying to hang up and call the cops, but every time I tried to, he was still on the phone. My friend told her parents what was happening, and they ran to the neighbor's house to call the police for me. I sat petrified with a broken rifle, a butcher knife, and a baseball bat behind my front door, because it's the only place in the house downstairs that couldn't be seen from a window, crying. Eventually I clicked over to hear a police dispatcher on the phone, stayed on the line with her until the police arrived. There was no sign of forced entry. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for future content. Email your true scary stories to thesinfulsavant@gmail.com. Until we meet again, stay sinful.